Is Aubrey Wilson, Deathstroke, a pedophile?
Beast Boy's sending you pictures of Tara's party.
You should go. Playing with teenagers is about your speed.
Slade Wilson, Deathstroke, is not a Batman villain. Huh? Now, can Slade Wilson make for an adversary for Batman? Sure, no doubts about that. Are the fight scenes between Batman and Deathstroke sick and entertaining to watch? Absolutely. There's no inherent problem with having Batman go up against Deathstroke in some comic story arc or in a multitude of adaptations, but I wouldn't go as far as calling him a primary Batman rogue alongside the likes of Penguin, Riddler, Two-Face, Deadshot, and all them boys. Anytime I hear Deathstroke is my favorite Batman villain, I'm like,
nigga, no.
I think this misconception really started to take effect in 2013, with Deathstroke being one of the 8 hired assassins in Batman Arkham Origins, where quote-unquote Black Mask put a $50 million bounty on Batman's head, manifesting arguably the sickest boss fight in the entire Arkham series. There would be some other adaptations out there that have or attempted to tackle any confrontations between the two, like Son of Batman and the Ben Affleck Batman movie in the DCEU that never happened, which instead morphed into the Matt Reeves Batman movie starring Robert Pattinson that released in 2022. The original script for Ben Affleck's Batman movie had it so that Deathstroke would be the primary antagonist and had a personal vendetta against Batman. Zack Snyder's initial plans for the DCEU has set the stage for a future Batman and Deathstroke-like fight, where the post-credit scene in Zack Snyder's Justice League featured Lex Luthor informing Slade on Batman's true identity as a means of convincing him to aid in his machinations.
You volunteered to destroy the Bat free of charge. Why the pro bono work?
It's personal.
If you want the Batman, his name is Bruce Wayne.
On second thought, we do have something to celebrate.
Good boy.
Ben Affleck himself was set to direct the movie and co-write the screenplay alongside DC Comics writer Jeff Johns. A version of the movie used Arkham Asylum as a means of exploring the darker aspects of Batman's mythology. This was talked about by the director of photography for Ben Affleck's Batman movie.
How far down the road on Ben's Batman did you get? Did you have a script? Were you working on?
There was a script, but not a loved script.
Got it.
There was a lot of work that he was doing to it. He was trying to change it, and then he made the decision to do, as you know, Gone Girl, and
right.
So,
well, were there reference points? I'm just curious, like for what the look of that film would have been to differentiate it from previous Batman films.
Well, he was going more into the insanity aspects.
Uh-huh.
So I think you would have seen something a little darker than what we've seen in the past, and more into the individual, who's inside Batman.
Right.
What element may be sane and what element actually may not be sane. So he was entering into a little more of the Arkham. It's like, he's going into where you keep everyone who's bad and everyone that's shifted, and Batman. So that whole aspect was it was very fascinating.
Yeah.
It was to go to the darker side of Batman.
Yeah, I'm a comic book geek, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
we've never really seen Arkham Asylum.
No, and that's where we were going.
That would have been cool.
It was like, and you'd read it and you go like, oh, and it's like, so I was very, very interested in that one.
Yeah, and I'm buddies with Joe Manganiello, who I guess was going to be Deathstroke, who I think was going to be one of the key antagonists in that one. What might have been.
Over the years, there have been glimpses of the project's development, mainly some concept art, storyboards, and screen tests since the movie never got far enough into the development stage. The actor for Deathstroke, Joe Manganiello, revealed some of the plot details of the film back in 2020. Apparently, it was a really dark story where Deathstroke would act sort of like a horror movie villain, dismantling Bruce's life from the inside out, killing everyone close to Bruce's life, and going out of his way to make him suffer as he felt Bruce was responsible for something that happened to him. There would have been an epic showdown between Batman and Deathstroke, to which Batgirl would be featured in a supporting role to help Bruce in his efforts in the third act.
Slade had lost his son, and he blamed Batman for it. Batman had a hand in it. And Luthor summons him to his yacht and gives him a key piece of information that Batman's secret identity is Bruce Wayne. So now he's setting loose this unstoppable force on Gotham City and Bruce Wayne. The Batman film was going to be kind of similar to imagine if David Fincher's The Game was real.
One of my favorite movies.
Systematically dismantles Bruce's life and starts murdering all the people in it as he destroys his finances and just basically paints him into a corner, and there was like a big, huge showdown, I think, between, it was like Batgirl jumps in, to try to help Bruce because Deathstroke is so fast that he can anticipate Bruce's movements. And there was this huge fight in Gotham City where Batman is like, completely afraid because he realizes he's met someone who can take him. And then that leads to this big climactic battle through the streets of Gotham City at the end. But it was like a real like psychological thriller where Deathstroke was kind of like he was like a horror movie villain, or like a shark, kind of like Jaws.
Despite Deathstroke only being a direct antagonist to Batman in a few adaptations here and there, and in a cancelled project, I guess that was enough to convince people that Slade Wilson is one of Batman's longest or greatest adversaries from his rogues gallery. While Batman vs. Deathstroke always makes for a cool matchup, there's never really anything more to it than that. Deathstroke doesn't have some profound personal vendetta or a decades-long connection to Bruce Wayne or Batman through DC's publication history. You could argue that since Deathstroke is a contract killer / mercenary, that allows him to be at odds with a multitude of DC heroes, which is true. He's had conflicts with Batman, Green Arrow, the Teen Titans, Nightwing. If you get in his way of a mission or objective, you're gonna catch these hands. His antics can have him cross paths with Batman, but that's just the case with any other hero. It's always funny to me when people associate him more with Batman than anything else when he doesn't even operate in Gotham City most of the time. He's not a Gotham rogue like Poison Ivy, Bane, or Two-Face. Deathstroke's sole motivation is never wanting to get revenge on Batman or take over Gotham from the inside out, but the couple of adaptations that are out there have convinced non-comic readers otherwise. Any fight between Batman and Deathstroke in comic story arcs are a really good way in demonstrating Deathstroke's combat ability and how capable of a combatant he really is compared to some of DC's best. Batman has almost never been able to defeat Deathstroke in a one-on-one fight with little to no difficulty. He pretty much always gives Batman a hard time. The experimental process Slade went through in the military increased his mental and physical abilities to superhuman levels, enhanced strength and speed, agility, the usual stuff. Most human beings only utilize 10% of their brain power capacity, while Deathstroke has his brain capacity increased to about 90%. Thus, Deathstroke makes for a pretty difficult adversary whenever Batman has to fight him for whatever reason. There was one instance where Deathstroke fought Batman in the Batcave on Batman's home turf where he had access to any necessary weapons and technology to help him fight Deathstroke, and the fight essentially ended in a stalemate. Now, I love the Arkham games. I'm a certified Arkham Batman meat writer, but are you gonna look me with a straight face and say Arkham Origins and Arkham Knight feature one of the best versions of Deathstroke when he gets manhandled by Batman during his second year of crime fighting, only to get one-tapped by Batman 10 years later canonically in Arkham Knight?
It's over, Slade. What are you?
Another noteworthy adaptation of Deathstroke where he had some beef with Batman, the DC animated movie universe. The one where he gets taken down by Batman in 3 hits or less. Then proceeds to struggle in a 1v1 against Damian Wayne. I don't know for certain if Slade was enhanced prior to the events of Teen Titans The Judas Contract, as his origin from what we were told had him be a former League of Assassins member who was considered to be Ra's al Ghul's heir as the head of the League. At some point, his actions were deemed unworthy and was then denied the right to be Ra's true successor.
Ra's trained me to take his place. Talia would have been mine as well, until your father came along.
So in the beginning of Son of Batman, Slade leads an army, killing dozens of League ninjas, kills Ra's al Ghul, and takes over the army for a brief period. His initial encounter with Damian is how Slade lost his right eye in this universe. Deathstroke's beef and motivations are more so tied with the Al Ghul side of the family with Ra's, Talia, and Damian. Him and Batman don't even interact that much, and come to think of it, they barely share any dialogue with one another. The climactic battle and Slade's vendetta is more so centered with Damian. Thankfully, he was a lot more amped up in the Judas Contract after bathing in the Lazarus Pit, which increased his strength comparable to that of his comic counterpart.
Let me guess. They got you to a Lazarus Pit just in time.
I've been bathing in it quite a bit lately.
Improves muscle tone, too.
His sole motivation for even accepting the contract from Hive to kill the Teen Titans was to seek revenge on Damian for the League of Assassins choosing him over Slade as the next Demon's Head.
You cost me my rightful place. They turned on me by choosing you. You took my old family, Damian, so I'll take your new one.
If you had to confine Deathstroke to being a villain for a particular hero or group of heroes, obviously it would be Dick Grayson and the Teen Titans. The Teen Titans cartoon is inarguably the most mainstream and popular adaptation of the team, and Slade was an absolute menace when tormenting these kids, especially Robin. It's like some of y'all just completely ignored this show's existence when trying to pin him as more of a Batman antagonist. Even if you've never read anything with Deathstroke, the show paints a pretty clear picture on what the dynamic between him and any of the Titans is like. The official DC Comics website quite literally states Deathstroke has fought many DC heroes, particularly the Teen Titans. I don't understand how they're considered second or below Batman in terms of Deathstroke's priority list on who to hate more. Slade Wilson's first appearance in DC Comics was in the new Teen Titans issue 2 from 1980, created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez. The amount of times he's fought Batman in the comics or in any other adaptation combined pales in comparison to the amount of times Deathstroke has gone up against the Titans. When you think of Teen Titans villains, Deathstroke is guaranteed to be your first thought. A writer for the DC Comics official website points out how pre-Flashpoint, there had been around 6 to 8 issues of Batman vs. Deathstroke action in total from his first appearance in 1980 all the way to 2011. Meanwhile, Deathstroke had fought the Titans to some capacity in over 100 issues and was their most consistent foe during that period. The Hive organization initially wanted Deathstroke to destroy the new Teen Titans, but he refused as they wouldn't pay him in advance before completing the job. They're able to create a serum that replicated Deathstroke's abilities after seeing his agility and physical prowess in action. Slade Wilson's son, Grant Wilson, underwent the procedure that had him injected with the serum that replicated his father's abilities, and pursued the contract from Hive to kill the Teen Titans. Grant also had a personal vendetta against them as he blamed them for the destruction of his apartment when Starfire was getting chased by aliens and for his girl leaving him. Even though his brain capacity was increased significantly, he was feeding off his body's own energy, and prolonged use of his powers would eventually lead to his death. Grant's heart gave out and died while battling the Titans, and Slade blamed them for his son's death and swore revenge against them, promising to complete the contract his son had originally set out to finish. The most famous story arc involving Deathstroke and the Teen Titans is the Judas Contract, where Tara Markov served as a spy for Slade, earning the trust of the Titans in order to feed intel on them to Slade. You clearly see what this man is capable of doing just to torment some teenagers. Say, Slade, I hear you like I'm young. You better not ever go to cell block 1. Like, do I need to play the clip again?
Certified lover boy, certified pedophiles. That fuck 'em up.
But hey, don't worry guys, Slade never actually went out of his way to sleep with Tara Markov, only manipulating her emotionally and leading her to falsely believe there could be a relationship between the two, just so he could exploit her and destroy the Teen Titans.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman. These allegations are false.
Yeah, it's still weird, my boy. Ain't nobody told you how to do all that just to manipulate some kids. Even if they didn't do anything incredibly freaky, he still made out with a 16-year-old. What the hell? If we had to highlight Deathstroke's prolonged history with any member of the Bat family, it should be the rivalry between him and Nightwing rather than Batman, with him being the leader of the Titans and all. Now I gotta be honest, as a longtime Batman fan and a fan of the Bat family mythos, keeping it real, I love me some dick.
What the fuck did he just say?
I don't care whether you're just a fan of Batman or a fan of DC Comics in general, I speak for everybody interested in these characters when I say you, me, we all like dick.
We? Now we going to war. What do you mean we? Nintendo? No, nigga, we as in us. Us? Are you talking about the movie? Nigga, us.
Slade has had far more personal connections to Dick Grayson, with them constantly butting heads over the years and any personal involvement with Slade's family. Slade Wilson's other son, Joseph Wilson, or Jericho, became a member of the Teen Titans during the Judas Contract story arc. Dick's first ever transformation into the Nightwing mantle was seen in that same comic arc. Nightwing even went out of his way to train Deathstroke's daughter, Rose Wilson, or the second of Deathstroke's children, to take up the moniker of Ravager. At one point, Deathstroke actually sought out Nightwing to be her tutor, as he believed Nightwing had renounced heroism when Dick went undercover as a means of taking down the secret society of supervillains, teaching her forms of combat and stealth tactics. This is when Rose first started to learn the values of heroism, with Dick trying to instill in her non-lethal methods and how to deal with certain situations. Deathstroke and the secret society of supervillains used a living chemical weapon to practically nuke the city of Bloodhaven, killing killing over 100,000 citizens. This would further cement the heated rivalry between Deathstroke and Dick Grayson. Deathstroke has fought Batman plenty of times in the comics, yeah, taking into account the roles he's partaken in tormenting the dozens of other heroes in DC mythos. It's kind of ludicrous to think he's primarily a Batman villain. Even if he should or shouldn't be seen as a Titans antagonist, he's willing to do all kinds of devious work, like join Lex Luthor's secret society of supervillains, causing all kinds of problems leading up to the events of Infinite Crisis. Even if this video didn't convince the Deathstroke as a prominent Batman villain crowd, go check what DC themselves had to say. I've done more than enough in showing the receipts. If you still want to argue that he should still be considered a prominent Batman villain more than the Teen Titans, do whatever you want, nigga. I don't care. I mean, you're wrong, but hey, you stay comfortable with that L. I'ma be chilling.